Hello. Hello. Hi, good evening. Wow. Okay. Hello, Creation, Munira. Hi, Mas Henry, Omar, Harisena, Juan. Hi, Minerva. Hi, Farid, Syed Abbas. All right. Good evening. I guess some of you good morning, right? Maybe some of you good afternoon, right? All right, welcome, welcome. Right, I think this is our last webinar of the year. Okay, I hope to do more to have sharing, not just from myself, but also from other people. Right, we share and learn our knowledge. Right. Okay, let's get started. Right. Right. So today I have my friend Mas Novian Buyung Pamungkas. He's a process engineer from Lotte Chemical Indonesia. All right, so Mas Novian, you can turn on your camera and say hi, right? All right, so let's welcome Novian. Right, so
Hello,
Novian
everyone.
graduated.
Hello.
Hey, Novia graduated from Universitas Gadjah Mada in 2020. He works as a process engineer currently with Lotte Chemical Indonesia. So Lotte Chemical is a petrochemical complex, right? Like
Yes,
ethylene
yes.
cracker, ethylene cracker, then produce polymers, right? So prior to that, he's a process engineer for PT Lautan Organo Water, environment staff for PT Mojorono Tobacco International. He has a strong interest in process simulations, right? I think if you follow him on LinkedIn, he posts some good contents in LinkedIn's about chemical engineering and process. So yeah, welcome. Right.
Thank you for
I'm going
having
to
me.
turn off my video now. Right. Then I'm okay. Yeah, just housekeeping also. Um, so we have a chat. We have a chat window, right? You can also see Q&A, right? There's a tab Q&A tab also. You can check the Q&A. Novian also has kindly share the material, so I've uploaded the material. You can look at it at the handout tab there. So I think there are about 4 files. I've uploaded the PDF files there. Right. Let me. Yeah, I think I will hand it over to Novian to start the webinar on this distillation topic. I will turn off my camera and
Okay.
mute myself also. Right.
Yep.
Go for it. Yeah, you can share your screen.
Yes. Uh, is my presentation visible?
Yes, I can see.
Okay.
You can put it also in presentation mode. Yeah.
All right.
I will make
Uh,
it the presentation full screen also. Then we can turn off our camera.
okay. Wait. Hello, everyone. So I'm Novian. So just like Pak Fauzi already mentioned, I currently work at PT Chemical Indonesia as a process engineer. So for those who do not know about this company, basically it's one of the biggest naphtha cracker facility in Indonesia. And before we begin the webinar, I have to put a little disclaimer. I'm not here as a representative of my company. So this evening I'll be speaking as myself. I'll be sharing my personal experience when building HYSYS simulation of a typical petrochemical plant. The system that I'll be sharing
Novian, I
with you.
can't see the your screen. Are you sharing? Just checking.
Wait, sorry.
Can you see Novian's screen?
Oh yes. How about now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Now I can see. Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. Right.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for the disturbance. So I'll be sharing my personal experience when building high-speed simulation of a typical petrochemical plant. The system that I'll be sharing is basically a mere case study, since I think no licensor will make a system like this because when you really study about the PFD that I have shared, you will notice that this kind of system will provide some ridiculous amount of operational challenge, and of course it's not going to be economical. So moving on to the next slide, we have this process flow diagram of the ethanizer and C2 splitter system. So basically in this PFD, we can see that we have two columns. That is, one is the C2. It's my way of saying the ethanizer because it's a lot shorter. And then we have another column that is C2 splitter. And then we have ethylene refrigeration system. So for
Sorry,
refrigeration,
Novian. I'm not
yeah.
sure whether you're sharing the. I can see only the title slide still now.
Oh, okay.
Just checking. Okay, now I can see. Then you can put it full
Oh
screen.
yeah.
I think it's better. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Perfect.
Wait. Before we can to the next slide, I mean, like, if I move to next slide, can you still see the change, or can you see any difference of slide?
I see the
Um.
process flow diagram now.
Okay. And how about now? Still in the same?
No. Yes, still the same. I think it's
Still in the same.
sharing. Maybe you're projecting. Is it? Are you? Now I can see the
No.
column, the ethanizer column.
Okay.
Right. That's
So maybe I will share an entire screen. I think it's a lot safer. Okay. How about now?
yes. Yes.
Yeah.
This is
Okay.
perfect. Yep. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So for the ethylene refrigeration system, we have like, well, the usual stuff that we might have in refrigeration system. So we have suction drum, compressor, and then uh, you know the condenser, accumulator to store the condensed liquid, and then we have multiple expansion valves to gain lower temperature. and and I will describe each of the equipment in greater detail using next slides. So we have the atomizer column. So for this column, we have two feeds coming to the atomizer column. So we have cold feed and hot feed. And the name really suggests the temperature. So cold feed has lower temperature than hot feed. And then for the reflux, the atomizer reflux comes from the side draw of C2 splitter. So because of this, the atomizer has no condenser or reflux drum. All of red stream from the atomizer will be sent to the C2 splitter as feed. And then we have C2 splitter column. Feed coming to this column is entirely vapor because, well, it's basically in the overhead of the atomizer, right? So it's entirely vapor. And the overhead of this column is sent to the ethylene compressor system. So when the overhead of the atomizer already finished being, separated in the C2 splitter, the overhead will be directly sent to compressor. And vapor from ethylene compressor system is partially used as the reboiling fluid. Now, this is one of my favorite part of this system because it has a very nice heat integration because nothing goes to waste. The ethylene vapor that still contains heat, transferable heat that is being used as a reboiling fluid for C2 splitter. So it doesn't rely on external heat supply such as steam or whatever. And then a part of ethylene liquid from ethylene compressor system is used as a reflux. So we have this, this stream of ethylene liquid, and this stream will be joined together with condensed ethylene from the boiler. Then these two streams coming together, and it will become the true reflux for Cetus splitter. Now, for ethylene compressor system, just like I previously mentioned, we have compressor, suction drums, accumulator, and expansion valves. Ethylene vapor from Cetus splitter will be compressed, right, using the compressor, and the resulting compressed vapor will be condensed using a condenser. The resulting liquid will be expanded multiple times using expansion valves. This is to gain even lower temperature. Some of the resulting vapor is used as Cetus splitter reboiling fluid, which is I already mentioned. So basically, it comes from the overhead of separator 1, right? Because some of it is being used as Cetus splitter reboiler fluid, and a part of it will be sent back to suction drum. The same happens with the overhead of separator 2. So from the overhead of separator 2, the vapor will be sent back to the suction drum. Nah, some of the resulting fluid, that is the bottom product of separator 2, is drawn as the product, right, the stream, and the rest is used as Cetus splitter reflux component and refrigerant. So a part of it will be used as Cetus splitter reflux. Of course, it's not the only component of the reflux, and some of it will also be used as a refrigerant, which is so you'll notice that in this PFD we have this branch. It's coming to the expansion valve, and then it's being used to provide the cooling duty for this user. And then because it's to provide cooling duty, it means that it will receive heat, and then everything will be vaporized, and the resulting vapor will be sent back to suction drum. Now we have reached the simulation problem statement slide. So the thing is, we want to make a high simulation of this system where we can
No,
utilize this.
Novian, can you?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Can you click hide the black
Oh
box?
yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So we want to make a high simulation of the system where we can utilize the simulation to predict what will happen to each equipment when feed flow rate or composition change. Well, I think this is a very obvious thing that we want to achieve, because if you want to make a high simulation or any simulation of using whatever software that you choose, it's not really useful if you want to make the simulation static, in a sense that if you change composition or flow rate, then it will simply like destroyed, or maybe it doesn't converge or it doesn't solve. It's not going to be useful, because in real plan you already have data called heat and material balance, so you don't have to know, sorry, you don't have to make a computer simulation to know the value of any streams, because it's already calculated by licensor. So to make your simulation useful, you have to allow some degree of freedom, such as a change in flow rate, change in composition. Now, to make this objective comes through, we have challenges, right? Because basically, if you want to have something in life, there will always be challenges that we have to overcome, and this one is no different. So we have several challenges, and challenge number one is that the atomizer column, or the C2 column, is highly intertwined with C2 splitter, because it provides reflux to the column. Right? C2 splitter provides reflux to the atomizer. So if the feed flow rate coming to the atomizer column change, the required reflux will also change, which in turn will affect Cetus splitter, because just like what I said before, the reflux for the atomizer comes from Cetus splitter. Challenge number two, Cetus splitter is connected to ethylene compressor system in a way that a portion of its reflux comes from ethylene compressor. So anything that happens to Cetus splitter will affect ethylene compressor system as well. Will affect your product. Will affect the amount of ethylene vapor that will be withdrawn from the system to provide the boiling duty. Yeah, this is the challenge number 3 actually. So C2 splitters reboiler uses ethylene vapor as heating fluid. So when feed coming to this column changes like the flow rate or composition, then the required ethylene vapor will also change. Now, technically, we also have another challenge, but it's not going to be necessary to mention everything, but it all can be summarized into this sentence. So, which one comes first, the chicken or the egg? Because the nature of this system is that everything is like connected. So if you change the behavior of one column, it will change the next column, and it will change the ethylene refrigeration system. If you change the ethylene refrigeration system, it will change C2 splitter, and it will also change the ethanizer. So it's like an age-old question: the chicken or the egg? So which one comes first? Now, let's strategize, right? So if you have uh, some kind of problem that seems to be unsolvable, at least at first, it's always a good idea to take a step back and strategize. Now, we'll divide the system into multiple subsystems and connect them all using recycle blocks. And then strategy number 2, use spreadsheets to adjust required flow rate of critical streams, especially reflux streams, because I think when it comes to simulation, um, we have to define, we have to clearly define the flow rate of reflux, because when you already have feed and then you define the cut point temperature, reflux is all that you need. And of course, when it comes to composition, we can let recycle operation to do the job. And then the strategy number 3, we can adjust calculation level of each HYSYS operation block if necessary. Now, before we truly begin discussing the technical stuff, uh, I think it's better to have a brief introduction of you know uh, operations that we'll be using. So this one is a brief introduction of recycle block. So what is a recycle operation? Basically, it is a mathematical or logical unit operation. So when we want to make a recycle operation, basically you will make a tear stream, right? So when you encounter a stream that will simply loop from one point and then to next, and then it will return to that previous point, you will require a recycle block, right? It is required when downstream material streams mix with upstream material streams. And when we're talking about recycle operation, basically you have two streams, especially when you tear the stream apart. You have calculated stream and then you have assumed stream. Recycle block will simply well, it's not about combining the two streams. It's like comparing the value of each stream, the calculated and the assumed, and the recycle block will simply do iterative calculation to make sure that the value of calculated stream and the assumed stream becomes, well, very similar. It depends on the sensitivity level that we define actually. Now, how to add recycle operation? Basically, we can estimate the recycle stream. For the purpose of this webinar, we can call it dummy stream, right? And then we can solve the flow sheet up to calculated stream. So in this case, we have this feed, right? It's being combined with dummy stream, and then it will enter this separation equipment. So the downstream, sorry, not the downstream, the bottom stream is the calculated stream, and well, the overhead is also calculated stream. But the bottom stream of, in the calculated one will be connected to the dummy stream, which is the initial estimation of recycle stream, and it will be connected with recycle block. Initially, the estimation can be very different from the calculated one. So it's the purpose of recycle operation to simply compare the two values and make two values simply the same or converge. Now it's about divide and conquer actually. So using recycle operations and dummy streams, we can divide the whole system. You have deatomizer and seed splitter and ethylene compressor system into three distinct subsystems, right? So we have the atomizer column, CO2 splitter column, and ethylene compressor system. Each subsystem will be made self-sufficient in a sense that it will be able to converge by itself. It doesn't require, for instance, for the atomizer, it doesn't require um, stream from CO2 splitter, at least initially, because we will provide dummy recycle or dummy reflux, really. So the same thing will happen for CO2 splitter system, and then also ethylene compressor system. And when we make the three subsystems to be self-sufficient, to be self-reliant, we can connect each connecting material streams with recycle blocks. So they will like just transfer data from one point to another point until everything converge. Now, we'll be talking about spreadsheet operations. Spreadsheet operation will be used to manipulate or perform calculations using user-defined and or flowsheet variables. So using spreadsheet operations, we can write mathematical and logical expressions using typical spreadsheet calculation syntax. So basically, it's like multiplication sign, addition sign, division sign, and well, basic mathematics actually. And then this spreadsheet operation is added through object palette, like this one that you can see on the right side of the slide. This is very familiar for people who have been using Aspen HYSYS. It's like something that you will see maybe at the left side of the flowsheet window. Now, spreadsheet is fully integrated with simulation. So the calculation inside the spreadsheet will be updated as the simulation, simply updates. Now, so what's about the spreadsheet potential? Now, in my experience, no, it's not about my experience really, but it's my personal taste when I want to solve something that requires a very hard logical thinking skills. Uh, Sometimes I wonder. I mean, I think it would be great, especially in this context, in this situation, if we could store some simple algebraic equations in a spreadsheet to calculate the required reflux every time the feed flow rate changes. And then the result, we can export the calculated value to dummy recycle streams, right? Because if we're talking about distillation columns, that's the thing that we have to provide the initial gas for, right? Because you already have feed, and you already have the number of stages or trays. You already have you already have the set point for cut point temperature. So all you need to do just define the reflux, and then hopefully all columns will be forced to converge in a flash, or maybe near flash, depends on the how the column or how the system change. Now, wouldn't it be great, right? But the thing is, how can we achieve that dream? Because if we cannot execute, if we cannot make plan and we cannot execute the plans accordingly, then the dream will become a pipe dream. It simply will not happen. So to make such plan, I think uh, it's always beneficial to go back to the basics. In this case, we can talk about the basics of distillation column. So when it comes to distillation column, we have multiple streams, right? So we have distillate. Basically, it's abbreviated as D, reflux as L, overhead vapor as V, and then reflux ratio, uh, L divided by D, feed as F, bottom product as P, and then component recovery. Component recovery is something that I believe every designer of distillation column must define in the beginning, because it's not entirely helpful to just say that, oh, I want some heavy component of this molecule, for instance, in the bottom stream to have concentration of zero point 0.9. But if the recovery of this component is low, then it's not necessarily useful to have such good quality of bottom product, right? Because most of the heavy component simply wasted in the overhead product, which is, well, it's going to be such waste, or maybe it's going to be very detrimental for your next process. Now, we'll be talking about simple mass balance. Um, when we are constructing mass balance, it's always useful if we clearly define the control volume of our analysis, right? When we want to do mass balance, we have to define the control volume. So for the first case, we want to do a simple mass balance around the condenser. So basically, if you express all variables in mass flow rate, you can say that the vapor of red vapor of the column equals L plus D equals reflux and distillate. And then you can define R, or reflux ratio, as L divided by D, which is, well, very common actually. Now, if we define the control volume to be bigger, right? It's not about round condenser anymore. Uh, but we simply enlarge the scope of control volume to be encompassing the whole of distillation column. We can say that feed will be equal to the addition of bottom product, or P, and distillate, or D. Now, what if we have an idea that instead of expressing R as L divided by D, we can say that R equals V divided by L. Well, I think it's not that much of a problem, because when it comes to parameters, we can always define it the way we want. Now, if we simply be consistent with this new definition of R equals V per L, then we can do some algebra magic, and then we can rearrange the whole equation to be L equals D, or distillate, divided by R minus 1. Now, the thing is, let me go back. The thing is, the illustration that I provided you is just a common distillation column configuration. So basically, we have distillation column, we have condenser, we have reflux drum, and we have we have a clear defined distillate stream, right? We can see that this is the distillate stream, and this is the reflux stream. But I'm aware that the atomizer column that I've shown you before, and the status splitter as well, they're not ordinary columns. They don't have a simple arrangement where one can easily define distillate stream, but they are still distillation columns. I think the distillate stream is simply hiding in plain sight, at least contextually. I mean, when we're talking about distillation column, or maybe or any unit operation equipment, if something goes in, then something must go out. right? And it is no different with distillation column. And if we are talking about distillation column specifically, it's not possible to only have bottom product because, well, once again, it's a distillation column. We always have distillate or top product. So if we look at the PFD once again, even though all that we see is that the column, especially the ethanizer, right? It only has a bottom product and it has an overhead stream, but overhead stream doesn't contain a clearly defined distillate, but distillate must be there, at least mathematically, at least logically, it's going to be there. So that's why I think for this kind of column arrangement, it is useful to express R as the ratio between overhead vapor and reflux stream. And this is going to be very important for the method that I'll be showing to you to solve the whole system. Now, I have mentioned that in order to make the system to be adaptable to flow rate change or um, composition change, we have to be able to adaptively define what is the reflux, right? So we'll discuss about how to do a reflux calculation by using this simple flowchart. So the first step is that we need to define a heavy component which will be present in bottom stream. It doesn't matter which is which. I mean, it doesn't matter what kind of heavy component that you choose. It's just what's important is that the heavy component must be always present in the bottom stream. So when you adjust the reflux ratio or maybe you adjust composition in the feed, make sure that make sure that the heavy component that you choose will always be in the bottom product in an appreciable amount. And the next step is we have to define its recovery. So the recovery factor of the heavy component and its concentration in the bottom stream. And I have to stress out that the number that we're going to define, I mean the recovery factor and the concentration, they will act as an estimation. So if you have some kind of drastic change in composition of it, then the recovery factor and concentration in the bottom stream, of course, it's going to change. But as long as the reflux is enough, the column will converge. So don't worry. And then the third step is that we will calculate bottom stream mass flow rate. So long as you know the recovery factor and then the number of the heavy component of your choosing in the feed, and then the concentration of that heavy component in the bottom stream, of course, you can calculate the total mass flow rate of bottom stream. And then the fourth step is that we perform mass balance around distillation column to obtain hypothetical distillate stream. And then the last step is we will calculate the required reflux. In order to show you how it's going to be, now let's open the HYSYS file. Okay, so can everyone see the HYSYS?
Yes, I can see.
Oh yeah, okay. All right. So basically, let's see the reflux calculation for the atomizer. It's I stored it in spreadsheet 1 actually. So let's make the window bigger. Right. Now I have multiple cells, right? I have cold feed, hot feed, and then okay. I have propane in cold feed, propane in hot feed, and so on. Now it's clear that for this option, I've chosen propane as the heavy component of my choice. And then for the cold feed, I simply import the mass flow from the stream cold feed itself. So from the stream, and then from for hot feed stream, I import it from the stream. And then for the heavy component, I believe, I mean, it's the step is the same actually. So uh, I simply import it from cold feed and hot feed. And because the value of each variable is simply imported from the stream itself, this value will always be updated. And this is not entirely important actually, but I like to show it anyway because the target is there is no propane in the reflux stream. So in this stream, there will be no reflux. Sorry, there will be no propane in the reflux. Now I will define that the propane recovery is going to be 0.9966. So it's about 99.66%. And then the VL ratio is going to be 4.487. Now the propane bottom concentration or the concentration of propane in the bottom stream, I will set the target to be 0.2459. So with all this data, we can calculate the bottom stream. So let's see the formula. So basically, it's the addition of cell P3, propane in cold feed, and then, uh, P4, propane in hot feed, and then P5, but this is not necessary actually. And then the addition result will be multiplied by cell P7 or propane recovery. So what this equation is saying is basically that I have imported the data of heavy component of my choosing, that is propane, right, in the feed, and then I will multiply it with propane recovery. So basically, I will have the amount of propane that will be recovered in the bottom stream. Now I will divide everything by D7 or propane bottom concentration. So if I do not divide it by this value, basically it's just this formula will simply just calculate the amount of propane in the bottom stream, but not the bottom stream itself. That's why I need to divide it with the predefined propane bottom concentration. And now we have the bottom stream, right? We'll move to how to calculate the reflux flow. Basically, it's just like the mass balance equation that I showed you before. So to know the L or reflux, we simply have to calculate D or distillate first. But because just like what we saw earlier in the PFD, we don't have the clearly defined distillate stream of the column. So basically, this is just a hypothetical distillate, if I may. And then once the D is calculated, we can divide it by R minus 1. So we'll move again to the spreadsheet. Basically, we have P1 plus P2. So this is the total fit coming to the column, and then it's subtracted by P8, so the bottom stream, right? So the result of P1 plus P2 minus P8 basically is the distillate, actually, the hypothetical distillate that we are looking for. And then the result of this mathematical operation will be divided by E1, cell E1, minus 1. That's why we can have reflux flow. Now, for this cell, we'll talk about later. We'll move to see how we can calculate the reflux for cytosplitter. Okay, let's see spreadsheet 2. Sorry. So the logic is basically the same. So I have cell deatomizer fit, and then ethane in fit. Oh, sorry, this is I mistyped the name. It's supposed to be cytosplitter fit. Okay, I have the fit coming to cytosplitter, right? Because I imported from stream number 2, and we can see in the HiSys file that stream number 2 is basically the fit coming to cytosplitter. And then I also choose ethane as the heavy component. Now, I also define the ethane recovery as this value, ethane bottom concentration as 0.875, and then VL ratio, this value. Then we'll see about how to calculate cytosplitter bottom. So basically, it's the same. We simply multiply the ethane in feed times ethane recovery. So we have the total ethane recovered as bottom product, and then we'll divide it with cell D3, that is ethane bottom concentration, to know the total mass flow rate of cytosplitter bottom. Now, what about if we check the calculation, right? This is 8,736 kilogram per hour. What about this? Let's see. Yeah, this is a little bit, there's some deviation actually, because I previously played a little to change the composition, so it's not entirely updated. But, just like what I said before, the VL ratio, the ethane recovery, and ethane bottom concentration, this is just a target. Just to know the cytosplitter reflux requirement. And as long as the cytosplitter reflux requirement is enough, then the stream, the columns will be able to be converged. And if you want to change the the quality of bottom product or the distillate, just change this, the VL ratio. Anyway, so we have cytosplitter bottom, and then we have cytosplitter reflux, and how to calculate this. So basically, it's about the same as the atomizer, but the main difference is that in cytosplitter is that we have this material stream 3. This is a side draw from cytosplitter that will be recycled back as the atomizer reflux. So if we perform a total mass balance around the cytosplitter, we will notice that basically this side draw will act as another outlet stream outgoing from cytosplitter. That's why the formula is a little bit different. It's P2 or cytosplitter feed minus P1, that is the reflux for the atomizer, right? The side draw itself. And then it's minus P4, the cytosplitter bottom, and then it will be divided by D1 minus 1, or VL ratio minus 1. So beside the this cell, the equation is basically the same as what we used before in the atomizer column. Now for these two cells, stream 28 and cell 3 double star, I'll explain it later. Now we'll go back again to the uh, presentation. Now we have the last step to consider. So basically, we'll be talking about the calculation order of HISIS. So basically, nothing is ever created equal, right? In life, in everything. So the same principle also goes for HISIS calculation order. Basically, a span HISIS will prioritize to solve some operations over others. This happens by default. We can see the default calculation level that we can encounter in an Aspen HISIS in this in this table. So for material streams, energy streams, and ordinary unit operations such as pumps, heaters, and coolers, and etc., they all will be solved, at the same priority level. But for column operations and subflow sheets, such as distillation columns, liquid extractors, reflux absorber, recoil absorbers, and etc. It's going to be solved after material stream, energy streams, and ordinary unit operations are being solved. And then the last priority is logical operations. So if you have logical operations such as adjust operations, recycles, and sets, uh, they are all going to be solved the last. Now, we can change the calculation order to suit our interest, of course. That is to make our simulation faster to converge. Now, I will show you how to access the calculation level in Aspen HISIS. So basically, to access the calculation level, you can go here in the solver tab. There is a small button. Just click it, and then you can have the calculation order window. So basically, you have the list of calculation level that that will be used to run this simulation. And you can notice that for recycle 3, it is solved a lot faster than other recycle block, and recycle 4 will be solved the last. Recycle 3 is it's going to be solved even at the same priority as material streams. And then we have set 2. Yes, set 2 operation is solved at later, lower priority than other set blocks. So I will explain why I choose to put the calculation level this way. So basically, the whole idea is to make the simulation, this simulation, to be as adaptable as possible. And I want the simulation to handle the change in cold feed and hot feed, not only the flow rate but also the composition. But I also want to make this simulation to be able to handle the change in cooling duty that is represented by this this stream Q user. Right, I can change this value whatever I want. So why recycle 3 needs to be calculated a lot faster than others? Because if I want to make a change in this stream, then it will directly transfer the data, the modified data right away from stream 9 to stream 10. And if you see the whole ethylene refrigeration compressor system, stream 10, this one, basically it's like a linchpin of the whole you know the whole refrigeration system, because it will provide the initial value for condenser, right? That's why if I want to make adjustment here, or maybe adjustment in the feed flow rate, then I want the updated stream from stream 9 to be just transferred directly, just as the stream 9 is solved. That's why I want this recycle 3 to be at the same priority level as material stream. Now for the set blocks or set 2, now this is I have an analogy for this. So basically, uh, the stream coming to this user comes from the T from stream 19, right? So if I change the Q user, the value of Q user, it will require more flow rate from this stream 19. So suppose I want to make this like twice as big, the duty of the cooling. Now, of course, it will ask for more of flow rate, right? But if stream 19 has not been updated yet, so how can it provide more, more flow rate to stream 22? It's not. I don't think it's not going to be possible. But or at least when it comes to HISE simulation, it will be prone to longer iteration times. That's why I want this set 2 to do its job at lower priority than stream 22. So after this is solved, then it will do the job to transfer the updated requirement by stream 22 to stream 21. And then stream 21 will transfer the required split spec of this T block, right? Yeah. So as you can see that um, the flow ratio is basically, I do not define it myself. It's all calculated. Now, for the cycle 4, basically it's like, this will be solved the last. I'm not really sure why it's necessary to be put this way, because sometimes it's not necessary, sometimes it's necessary, because it all depends on the how drastic I want to change the composition or the feed flow rate. But I think why this recycle 4 needs to be solved the last compared to other recycle block is because this will act as the last step for the whole system to do iterative to do the iterative calculation. So the logic is, if I uh, ask if I order recycle 4 to do the job the last, then it will simply shorten the iterative calculation, because uh, the stream before this recycle 4 will always be updated first, right? So I think I think it's going to shorten the iteration calculation. Now, let's go back to spreadsheet 1. So the thing is, I haven't explained this two seed to split spec cell. So basically, the stream, the value of the stream comes from P9, right? As you can see in the equation, it simply recalls the value of cell P9, and then this value will be exported to Cytosplitter as the spec value. So if you allow me to enter the Cytosplitter, basically, the rate of stream 3, that is the mass flow rate of stream 3, I also use it as a defining parameter that status splitter column must achieve, right? So as you can see that the value of this mass flow rate, I do not define it myself. And then for a spreadsheet 2, we have like stream 28 that we haven't discussed. Basically, stream 28 recalls the value from, well, stream 28 itself. So it is from the downstream of status splitter boiler. So as you recall, status splitter boiler use ethylene vapor, and it will be condensed, right? And it will be combined with ethylene liquid to make reflux. That's why we have the target reflux, but we also need to draw some of ethylene liquid to combine, and then we have the total reflux, right? That's why the stream 3 double star is just the subtraction of target reflux with stream 28, and then it will be exported to this stream, and then it will transfer the data to stream 26, which is going to transfer the data to T102. So it will simply change the required split flow from stream 20. So basically, this spreadsheet block will always define the required flow rate, and then the amount of ethylene liquid that must be taken from ethylene compressor as additional reflux for status splitter. And how about if we see it in action? So we'll do some case study where the cold feed will be increased to 1.2, for instance. Right. Then, as you can see, the whole stream is just converts instantly. What about if I adjust it to 0.8, also instantly? What about if I change the hot feed to 0.75? Also happen instantly. Well, in this case, Recycle 6 undergoes some problem, but usually it's because the sensitivities is too small, actually. So it might be beneficial to increase the sensitivity level so that the recycle block can reach iteration limit. But we can adjust it back to 1, also 1. And that is a demonstration about when we want to change the flow rate. But how about if we change the composition, right? So let's change it to mass fraction. Shall we say change the ethylene composition to 0.55, and then we'll increase ethane 499. Sorry, 0.0112. Wait, this is 0.155. 0. Let me adjust 1421. Right. Yes, and everything is also converged. So the system can handle at least some degree of flow rate change and also composition change. So I think that the last demonstration concludes the webinar, actually. So I realized that I cannot like present every steps that I took when I made the HIC simulation. So if you want ask me about anything regarding this simulation, you can send email to me through this email address novianbuyung@gmail.com. Also, I think I can provide the HIC simulation file, and I think I will post it in my LinkedIn post so everyone can see the link. So thank you. Is there any question? Maybe.
I think there's some questions around the material balance, like the ratio. I guess one on one slide. Let me see. I think the R equal phi divided by L. I think there's a
Oh
question
yeah.
around that.
Yeah. So basically, uh, R equals, yeah, usually we express the reflux ratio as R equals L divided by D, right? It's the the ratio between L reflux itself and the D the distillate. But the thing is, because we do not have a clear definition where the distillate is, I think it's going to be beneficial to just simply change the how we define the ratio, the R value to be V V per L instead of L per D, because when we see the material balance again, right? When we define it, when we define R equals V per L, we can have L itself when we know D or distillate, uh, and then we can divide it with R minus one. And to know the distillate, all we have to do just know the bottom product. And to know the bottom product, all we have to do just define the target, the recovery factor, and then the heavy element concentration in the bottom stream, which is, well, basically it's just something that we will always define in the beginning. So the data will always be there. Okay. To know the value of R itself, it's basically for this simulation I use reference from other source, but I define it. Sorry, I simply modify it in a way that well, it doesn't inflict copyright infringement or something. But the logic is like this actually.
All right, thank you. I think there's some questions around property package, but I guess that's I
Yeah,
answered
it's
basically.
already
It depends.
in the guide actually.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I think that's about it. If there's no more, oh, there's one question. Felix, hydrocarbon used for estimate activity questions. Uh, I'm not sure, Felix,
Yeah, I'm
in
not
terms
really
of the
sure
question.
the relation
Yeah.
actually. But for activity
Yeah.
coefficient, I think it's already included in the fluid package, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
For the fluid package itself, I'm using the Pengrok. It's very common for hydrocarbon component.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I think let's give a big thank you to Novian for providing the uh, presentations demo. This is, I think, a unique way of trying to solve this complex interconnected systems. I think there's one comment from Muhammad Omar, right? I think it's a good comment. Like there's another way is using equation oriented, right? I think maybe this is
Yeah, that is true.
something,
Yeah.
yeah, a topic for another time. Let me also do some reading and practice. All right. Okay. All right. Let me, yeah, we can end this webinar. All right. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Novian, very much
Thank
for doing
you,
this
Pak Fauzi. Thank you,
demonstration and
everyone.
sharing. All right.